Hello, everyone. I'm hopping on for a quick unedited video to answer a question that's been coming up a lot in my membership community and here on my YouTube channel. This is a question about one of the scariest things that can happen to people during their recoveries. So the question is, if I develop new symptoms, does that mean that I'm doing something wrong or that there's something else wrong with me? So I want to start by saying that this is an extremely common phenomenon. And I see this with maybe not the majority of, but a very significant minority of people that I work with their chronic dizziness, that after they start to get better and they start to get on top of the things that got their chronic dizziness going, they suddenly develop new and alarming symptoms. Some of those symptoms can be dizziness related. So for example, one of my membership community members says that she suddenly now notices more visual symptoms than she did before, but it can also be something completely unrelated. I've had a client, for example, who had dizziness and then had leg pain in one leg, and then arm pain in one arm, and then shoulder pain, and then back pain, and then eye pain, and then chest pain. I'm not even kidding. I'm not making this up. So it's very, very common for these symptoms to migrate. And the reason this is so alarming is because we have all been raised with a medical culture that is a pathology-based system. So what I mean by that is normally when there's something wrong, the doctor will look at your symptoms, try to find something wrong with the body part that's producing the symptoms, and then treat that body part. So this makes complete sense when, of course, there's actually a disease or an illness that is starting or originating in your body. When it's an illness that is starting or originating in your nervous system, that approach really doesn't work. All bets are totally off. In other words, your nervous system can produce symptoms wherever it feels like it. And now I'm not saying that you shouldn't do your due diligence. If you do have the development of new symptoms, of course, it's a great idea to have your family physician check you out, make sure there's nothing crazy going on, but you should have your eye on this. When symptoms change, this is a very, very normal part of the recovery process, even if the symptoms seem completely wacky and completely different and completely irrelevant. Okay? So the next question is usually, okay, so that's great, except how do I stop being anxious about this and what do I do about it? So the first step to not being anxious about it is watching a video like this where I tell you that it's normal. And I also want to tell you that the best way to approach something like this is not to try to fight it. So your impulse in some cases is just going to be, okay, ignore. Oh my gosh, kind of resisting against it, pushing it away because it's just scary. And then for others of you, it's going to be that you're going to ruminate on it. You're going to want to do lots of research on it, get really anxious about it. And both of those approaches really don't work because they just kind of draw your attention to it more and increase the fear. So rather than take either of those two approaches, my suggestion is to just sit with it, sit with the new symptom, take an approach maybe like somatic tracking. That's a great approach with a new symptom like this, and remind yourself why the symptom is there. So go back to all the things that you've already learned about your chronic dizziness that are helping you with your other symptoms. They're exactly the same principles. Stress, personality traits that have caused you stress, and emotional responses that have caused you stress are the cause in most cases for chronic dizziness. And we've had many videos on this before. If you're not sure, you can watch my video on neural circuit dizziness and how to tell if that's what you have. But the assumption is if you're on this channel and you're watching this video, you've probably already come to the conclusion. You've already gone to all the physicians. You've already had the diagnosis of a symptom-based disorder like triple PD or MDDS, maybe even vestibular migraine. So we already know we're working with something that's neural circuit. And in that case, you're going to want to kind of dig in again and remind yourself, remind your brain, remind your nervous system, hey, nervous system, I know you're trying something new, and I'm going to sit with this right now, but it's actually not going to fool me because I actually still know what's behind all this. So it's okay to be scared. You can't stop yourself from being scared. It's okay to find the symptom distressing and alarming and to feel awful that it's happening. But also remember that there's a reason the symptom is here. And there are two ways to kind of look at this symptom. So I've talked before about extinction bursts. So to remind you guys, an extinction burst is when your brain has been using a strategy for a while. It's kind of used to working a certain way. And then you're like, okay, well, let's not do this anymore. It's like, what do you mean I'm not going to do this anymore? In fact, I'm going to double down on it. So you pay even more attention to the symptoms. So it's kind of that process in which the brain will kind of double down on the symptoms to get your attention more as you stop paying attention to the symptoms. Okay. So that's one way to think of it. The second way to think of it is that you're in the process now of neuroplasticity, which I've discussed before. It's a term that I no longer like using because it's such a buzzword, but that's essentially what's happening. Your brain is always adapting, always changing. Your brain is always plastic. But in this case, this is a very good indication that the circuit of your dizziness is in the process of changing. That's why new symptoms are coming up. That circuit is changing. And this is the best possible news. This is exactly what you're aiming for. So if you're having new symptoms, first, remember this is very common, very normal. Second, remember that pushing against it isn't going to make it go away. Okay, so just kind of letting it be, reminding your brain of the mechanism. And third, remembering that your whole job with getting this dizziness out of its current state is teaching your brain a new way of doing things. And here it is, your brain is doing a new thing. It's doing a new thing. It's not a thing you like, but you're not going to be stuck with it forever. These things do not last long. New symptoms that pop up don't tend to last very long at all, especially when you approach it the way that I just suggested. So I hope that that was helpful and a little bit reassuring for you guys. Again, I promise I see this all the time, and it's going to freak you out every time it happens. It's going to make you question everything. It's going to make you want to run to all the doctors and go through all the tests all over again. But again, this is a normal part of the recovery process for many people. So if you're here watching this video, congratulations, because if this is happening to you, you are getting better. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.